Hey yogis, welcome to Limitless Yoga Studio Online. My name is Kelsey, and today is going to be a foam rolling class for the upper body. So the only prop that you're going to need is a foam roller. My favorite is one without any kind of extra texture, just nice and smooth. You'll need one that's at least this long. I know some of them can be a lot longer. That's not a big deal, but if they're much shorter than this, we're not going to be able to get the whole back. So at least this one, I think this one is about 2 foot. So once you have your props, go ahead and keep the foam roller to the side for now, and then find a comfortable position on your back. We're going to do just a kind of a check-in head to toe before we hit all those upper body parts, and then we're going to come back and do a check-in at the end and see how we've influenced the muscles and tissues. So go ahead and lay on back. Nice long legs, nice long arms. Feel free to close down the eyes if you want. We're just going to take a couple cycles of breath here. I'm going to ask a couple questions, and I just want you to log those answers away for the end of class. So take a moment and feel out how long the back of the neck is, if there's any sensations, any grumpiness. And then notice the shoulders. How heavy are they? Maybe how close to the ground are they? Does the right feel any different than the left? This could be in sensation if one is achy, but it could also be asymmetrical in terms of weight. One could feel a little heavier or a little closer to the ground. And then if you do feel a sensation, be specific about it. Give it a number out of 10 and maybe a word to describe it, whether it's achy or stabby or burny. And then as you move down the spine, go ahead and just notice what part, if any, of the back is lifted up off the floor. And then if you have any of those spots, just kind of log that away. Then notice if the right feels any different from the left. So again, kind of like we did with the shoulders, but down the back, from the back of the shoulders all the way down to the tailbone. Is there sensations on the right or the left? Are there any differences in pressure against the mat? And then lastly, we want to feel out that low back area. Anything going on there? Right versus left? Any sensations? Just take 2 more cycles of breath. If there's anything that you feel I left out, go ahead and add that in. Anything down the arms, outer hips maybe. One last big breath for a check-in. And then we're going to begin with the neck. So take your foam roller and place it right in the curve of the neck. And then take a moment to go chin to chest to hang heavy to get nice and comfortable in the shoulders and the arms. And then with each cycle of breath here, we just want the exhale to relax the body a bit more. We want the body to accept this pressure as good therapeutic pressure and not, potentially dangerous pressure where it needs to tense up and brace against it. So take another big cycle of breath and just melt into it, maybe even feeling the tissue give way to the pressure of the foam roller. And then you're going to very slowly start to move your head right and left, like you're shaking your head no. And we want to move slowly here. Ideally, it's with your breath. So it's inhale, ear to ear. Exhale, ear to ear. The reason we want to move slowly is just to really give the brain a chance to catch anything along that path. It needs time to kind of figure out, ooh, this feels different, or that feels tender. But also, we don't want to fire up any extra muscles. If we go fast, sometimes we use a lot of things that we don't want to use because we want them to relax and we want them to ease into this pressure and this massage that we're giving it. So take just 2 or 3 more cycles here, right to left, and then just begin to plant little flags where your body says there might be something different, unique, interesting. We're going to address those in just a moment. Okay, 1 more right, 1 more left, just as a way to investigate what's going on along that arc. Okay, so now as we come back, go ahead and find that first interesting spot. Pause, take a breath to get really heavy and melt into it, because you might have been bracing in the shoulders without even recognizing. And then holding that spot in place, you're just going to slowly shake your head yes. So basically, we have found the spot that needs addressed, and we are addressing it with a different motion. We're scrubbing it in a different way. So I'm going to go up and down just a few times, and then I'm going to go searching for my next spot. So I'm basically using the shake of my head no to find something good, something worth spending some time on. And then once I have it, you're then going to use a yes to address the spot. And at any time, feel free to adjust the foam roller. If you feel like it's kind of getting away from you, or if you feel like the angle's not quite right, absolutely adjust to get what you need. And then we're going to spend just another moment here with this yes and no, and then I'm going to show you one more move, one more tool in your toolbox to use when you're addressing the neck before we move on to the upper back. Okay, so let's say I'm still finding a spot that's a little interesting, so I'm going to pause on it. Rather than shaking my head yes, I'm actually going to kind of scrub some circles. So it's as if my nose was a pencil and I'm just drawing little teeny tiny circles. And then I can go clockwise, I can go counterclockwise. It's just another way of working with the fascia, which is what we're trying to ease into right now. So I'm going to move back and forth. So you've got your shake of the head, no, to find your spots. And maybe you find a spot and seriously just relaxing into it is the best thing ever. Okay? But you also have those tools of movement. So you find a spot and you shake your head yes, or maybe you make little circles. Okay? So just a few more seconds addressing your spots. It is always worthwhile noticing if there are more spots on the right versus the left. If one side is wildly asymmetric, that is your body's way of telling you something. It's something that we need to address so it doesn't end up leading to injury or pain. All right, bring it back to center, chin to chest, just like we started. Make sure the shoulders are relaxed. Take a big breath. All right, we're going to be moving on. So I'm going to just kind of slowly roll up towards the seated position, and I'm going to take a neck roll just to make sure that everything is worked out. So chin to chest, nice big circle here, getting out pops and creaks, but also maybe noticing differences in the range of motion or just in the texture of the motion. Maybe there's not any pops and creaks like there usually are. All right, we're going to get this upper back, this thoracic spine area. So the area of that spine has a natural curve forward. So what we're going to be doing with the foam roller is taking it a little bit in the opposite direction. So we don't want to go anything crazy here, nothing that's going to cause any pain. We just want to give it some really healthy motion. Okay, so I've got the foam roller at the bottom tips of my shoulder blades. And what I want to do is just slowly start to work up and down the back. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to kind of use my feet to push and pull me. And this first, up and down, again, I'm trying to relax just like I did with the neck, but I'm just kind of investigating just like I did with the neck to see what's going on. Is there anything at the top of the spine? Is there anything at that mid-back area? Anything that's talking to me? And at any point, if I feel like my neck is straining here, I can always use my heads and kind of rest back. I really like this position here. Feels nice on my shoulders as well when I massage up there. All right, so this is just kind of that investigation part, just like we did with the neck. You're going to see a pattern here. And then once we've kind of given a little glance over, now I'm going to go get kind of specific, okay? So I'm going to start here at the top of the spine, and I'm going to let my tush rest down on the floor. Okay, so I'm just going to slowly work up and down. So it kind of looks like I'm doing crunches, but not really with that much energy. So I'm just a slow up and down. And you might get some crackles. What you want to be aware of is that as you lean back, we don't want to dump into the low back here. So we don't want to just flail ourselves over the foam roller. We want to keep it in a controlled motion that feels good, that feels healthy, nothing resonating down into that low back area. Okay, so I'm going to stay on this kind of same set of vertebrae across the back, and I'm going to go right and left. And if the hands behind the head doesn't do the trick, you can always take your hands more like across the chest like you look like a mummy. Okay, so back and forth. That's just another tool of movement in your toolbox. Okay, so I feel like I'm pretty done with this set. Nothing was too grouchy. So I'm going to push into my feet, go up to that next set of vertebrae, put my bum down, and then I'll start with that motion up and down. So obviously, nobody's going to look alike here. Your motion might be quite a bit smaller if you feel a little crunchy or rusty in that area, which is very common. So just don't overdo this. Don't go as far back as you possibly can to the detriment of your low back. Okay, so up and down, and then of course right and left. And again, this motion, again, you're not going to look the same. Maybe it's a smaller motion, maybe it's a bigger motion. You just want to slowly kind of investigate the area. Okay, so if you're really feeling something good here, then maybe you stay. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next spot, and same thing. So I'm just slowly moving down that upper back section, giving it this crunching motion. That's flexion and extension of the spine. And then, while we pin that area in spot in space, then I might also give it a little rotation just to kind of investigate if the right is any different from the left. Okay, so you have just a little bit of time left here. I'm going to move down. I think I've got probably one more area before I hit the bottom tips of my shoulder blades, which is where I want to end. So back and forth. And again, just being careful, because as the lower I go down, the more ability I have to really kind of lean too far back and then start to feel this in that low back area. So just really keep your awareness on your spine so you're not doing anything that you're going to regret in the morning. Okay, so up and down, right and left. Little scrubbing motions. If anything feels good just to hang on to, like, ooh, that's a really good spot, I'm just going to pause and breathe, then absolutely do it. We're basically kind of treating the back like it's a wrinkled up shirt. We want to take our iron down, and if there's a really good wrinkle that we need to just hold that iron on to for a little bit longer, then absolutely do so. Okay. All right. To finish off, I'm going to go back just to a few swipes up and down, just to kind of, like I use that analogy of an iron stand, iron everything out one last time. And then I'm going to put myself down and slowly bring myself back up. So now to stretch that area out, I'm going to do a little cat-cow. So I'm going to grab a hold of my shins. I'm going to take chin to chest, so I'm leaning back in my hammock, and then I'm going to broaden across the collarbones and push the chest forward. I'm going to do this 2 or 3 times. That flexion and extension of the spine, just giving it a little bit of movement here after that release. Okay, last one here. All right, bring it back to that neutral spine. Now we're going to address this area back here, the lats and the serratus. So I want to take my foam roller, and you do have an option of using a pillow or something for your head. I'm going to use my hand, but I'll also go ahead and grab a yoga block just to make sure that you know that if it gets a little bit tender, which is very, very common, that we do have an option to make it a little bit less. Okay, so I want the foam roller to be right at the bottom edge of my armpit, so not in it, but right below it. And I'm just going to thread my arm through, place the foam roller, and now this is where I would either use the block or the pillow, and then obviously the higher my head is, the less intense this is. So I can kind of build this up and relax into it like this. Okay, so this might be more than enough for many of us. This is going to be pretty intense, just having that pressure down on there. But another option is to take the head into the hand like this. Okay, that is going to stretch the muscle out, so making it more intense. So please stick with the one that feels productive and not painful. All right, so just like we did with the neck and the back, take a big breath, relax into it, because like I said, this can be pretty intense. The lats can be kind of grumpy. All right, so if you need to take a few more cycles of breath to relax into it, if you still feel like you're fighting it, then absolutely do so. I'm going to move just a little up and down, and you're not going to get a massive amount of movement here just because you are kind of just wiggling up and down a little bit. But the idea is that we're going this way. Okay. I'm just kind of feeling it out and seeing. I can definitely tell that the closer I get up to my armpit, the more tender it is. The further I go down, it's not as bad. So just kind of investigate. I know I'm going to have to do a little bit more at the top of my lats. All right. So now that I've investigated that, I'm going to go ahead and go segment by segment. All right, so I'm going to start down here, working my way up towards the armpit, and I'm going to slowly take my heart forward. Kind of going to look down at the foam roller, and then I'm going to roll my rib cage and look up towards the ceiling. Okay, so that is a movement tool in your toolbox. Absolutely just stillness is perfect. If you roll over and you're like, oh my goodness, that's the spot, then just hold, breathe, and relax and let that pressure and gravity do the work. Okay. So for me, doing this, not getting too much. So I'm going to bring in one more movement just to see. I'm going to go ahead and just land flat on that foam roller, and then I'm going to slowly lift up, whoo, and down. And that one, whew, that's a little fiery. So I'm going to take my time, and I'm just going to really be aware that I don't want to go into that realm of pain. I don't want the body to fight back here and think, oh my gosh, we're going to get injured. I just want it to be that kind of deep tissue massage. Okay, so all these are just optional. You're going to play with this. The great thing about these online classes is you can always come back. Maybe you work this for a while, this forward and back motion, and then once that clears up and you're like, yeah, I don't feel much anymore, then you can bring in this motion and see if this gives you any extra feedback. Okay, so I'm ready for the next spot. I'm just going to kind of scooch down a little bit. Next spot, rolling. So I can definitely tell it's getting more tender as I come up. Ooh. But for me, personally, I swim most days, and lats are huge for swimming. So I kind of expected my lats to be a little bit grumpy. For some of us, it might very much be your pecs. So here, as you roll forward, you're going to find some good stuff there, rather than for me as I'm rolling back is where I'm finding a lot of my good stuff. So absolutely roll forward and back, maybe lifting. Take whatever movement is productive for you. And then again, if you find something good, just hang out and pause and breathe. I'm pretty sure on this next one that I hit, I'm not going to do much movement. All right, here we go. Oh, bring it on down. This is by far the most sensitive. This is probably like a 7 out of 10. So I definitely know that I'm not going to work too much more than just compression and relaxation. But if you're feeling pretty good here, maybe you're just getting 4s and 5s, then you can start that rock forward and back. You can maybe lift the elbow. I'm pretty sure if I lifted my elbow, I'd be screaming into a 9 or 10. So we're going to stay away from that for now. Again, you can always have a blocker or pillow underneath the head. All right. So this hand, this position here is completely optional. If I wanted, maybe I do want some movement, and this is my most tender spot, I'm going to take this position. That just eased it down a little bit. So now I could probably do some movement on this area. So lots of options here. You just want to listen to your body and do what's best. All right. All right. Finishing up here. I'm going to take my hand, press into the mat. Come on up. I'm immediately going to take the arm that I just massaged. I'm going to kind of drape it over my head, take a little side stretch here, and then not only side, but side and forward a little bit, which will stretch out that lat. And then bring it all back, and we'll do the other side. So I can feel a huge difference in the kind of just the overall texture and the structure of the shoulder here because of that release. So I'm going to flip on over to this side. Block or no block, pillow or no pillow, completely up to you, but just recognize that your sides are different. So if this side is more intense for me than that other side, then I'm definitely going to want to use that pillow block. Okay. As I'm landing here, as I've got playing with the angle of the foam roller, I think this side's going to be okay to do the hand movement, but again, please use the block and pillow. All right, so I'm just going to melt into it, breathe into it, relax into it. Sometimes on the second side, it doesn't take as long to relax because your body is like, oh, we're doing this again. Okay, so I'm going to move up and down, just kind of test the waters. So I'm going in this direction, even though you can't see much movement here. Okay, and definitely seems to be the same on this side as I move up towards my armpit. I'm getting more sensation. So seems like this is going to be pretty similar to the other side. But again, we always want to check on those asymmetries. If one side is just wildly more sensitive, your body's way of telling you something. It means you're doing something with that side or not doing something with the side that the other side's getting. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start down here, and I'm going to go ahead and roll forward and back. So your lats are pretty big back muscle, and one of your biggest. So sometimes it can feel kind of like a thunk, almost like you're going over a speed bump. That's pretty normal. Sometimes if you can catch it right before it goes thunk, it's a pretty good spot. So again, use the block or the pillow underneath the head. Maybe you're going to go up and down, which I'm doing just because that roll gave me maybe like a 5 out of 10. So it was definitely sensation, but nothing too high. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and move it on up. Come to the next spot, same thing, forward for the pecs. So if you find something good here, hang on to it. Okay, a lot of times pecs can be grumpy. If you have to sit at a desk, kind of hunch over technology all day, pecs can tighten, and this can feel really nice. And then as you roll back, it's more of the lats, which for me are extra grumpy. Okay, so back and forth. And then I've got a pretty nice spot here as I roll back, so I think I'm just going to hold that spot and hang out for a moment. But if you need to keep moving, or maybe if you want to try that, whoo, that's getting close to 7. This side might be a little grumpier than my other one, but not wildly. Like there's always going to be one side that's just a tick different. But if we're talking like massive amounts of difference, we want to investigate that and start to think about why that is. Okay, I'm going to come into my last spot here. It's going to be the most. So I'm going to make sure and keep my breath work, because if I'm taking those nice long cycles of breath, then my body's going to relax. It's not going to fight this or brace against it. So I think I'm probably going to just keep compression for a little bit here, but you can absolutely start your forward and backward rocking or your lifting, or if this side, which this is getting more sensitive for me, I might grab that block and use it for a pillow. I'm going to try a little forward, backwards, see how that feels. And then the great thing also about these online classes is if one of these releases was just, life altering, then you can just, fast forward to that one release and do that one every day. Just be aware of the times that I'm giving you. We don't want to sit there and do this for, 20 minutes on each side, because that's just too much for the body. It's going to bring in, or has a potential to bring in a lot of inflammation. You might actually feel a little stiffer after doing it. So, all right, I'm going to try to lift. Whew. That is spicy. But it's a hurt so good. It's a deep tissue massage. It definitely feels productive and not painful. So we always want to keep it in that realm. Be for just a little bit longer. And then we're going to make sure and hit that low back area. Almost everybody needs that low back area. Oh, all right. I think that's the spot. All right, I'm going to use that top hand to press myself upwards. And then I'm going to immediately come into that big stretch. So not only sideways, but sideways and kind of forward motion. All right, last one. We want to hit that low back. So I'm going to place that foam roller right there. And for some of us, we might want to use our hands for the kickstands, for the braces here. I'm going to push between my hands and my feet and roll back and forth. If this is, you're hitting some good sensations, then you're going to stay here. I like to come down to my forearms. Not only does that take the weight out of the wrists, but I feel like it gives me just a little extra weight on the low back, so it feels a little nicer. So definitely take the option that's best for you. And just like we did with the upper back, just like we did the lats, we're just going to kind of roll back and forth and investigate, see what's going on from the mid-back area, the curve. So basically, we stopped at the bottom tips of the shoulder blades. We're kind of taking over from there, going through that low back curve towards the tailbone area. Okay, and just investigating. So for the upper body, we kind of did that crunching motion and that twisting motion. It's a little different in the lower back. So I'm going to come to the top of my low back and pause here. And I'm just going to bring my knees right and left. So this would be that twisting motion that we did in the upper body, but now we're using our lower body to do it. This feels okay. And then for that crunching motion, we're going to bring the knees in. So kind of like a marching. Everything feels pretty good on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and move it down a section. And I can just relax and breathe, or I can bring in that right and left rock. Something feels really good. Like I think I've got something on the left side, so I'm just going to kind of hang out here for a moment. But if you're good to go, you can start the marching. So you've got those movement tools in your toolbox, the twisting, and you're kind of rounding the spine. So flexion and extension and that twisting motion. Okay, I'm going to keep moving down. Hopefully I don't walk myself out of the screen view. Take a second, just relax into it, breathe, and then maybe a little right and left. And for me, as I get closer to my SI joint, which is where your spine comes into your pelvis, I can definitely tell this twisting motion feels really nice. I'm scrubbing basically back and forth across it. And if any point you need to come back up to your palms, that's always an option if your shoulders are getting tired. Or you can always just take a break. You can come back and hit the pause button. Again, great thing about all online classes. Take the breaks that you need. Okay, so I'm about at the bottom of the spine. If I go a little bit, maybe just a tiny bit further, I just don't want to get to the point where I'm just on really soft glute tissue, because then I'm done. All right, and then I'm just going to come back. I'm going to come back out to my palms for this part so I can roll myself back into this view of the screen. I'm going to go up and down a few times. Again, just ironing everything out, bringing in that blood flow. All right. Okay, so before you hit the stop button, we're going to do that checkout, which is really, really, really important for the neurological aspect of this. We definitely want the brain to recognize what we did. So I'm going to roll it on back. And then just like we started class, I'm going to take nice long legs, nice long arms. Feel free to close down the eyes. And then remembering all the answers to the questions I gave you beforehand, we're going to compare that information now. Okay? We basically kind of want to give the brain a new blueprint of what the body can feel like once we've gotten out all of those areas of tension and all that tightness and that stress and grumpiness that we carry around. We want to show it that this is the way that we want it to be all the time. So again, check on the neck to start with. How long does it feel? Is there any sensations? Then move down to the shoulders. How close they are to the ground? Do they feel a little heavier, a little lighter? Did you have an asymmetrical shoulder and now it's not? Maybe you can feel some tingliness from the blood flow or heat from the blood flow. Sometimes it kind of feels like I've got icy hot on my back after I do this. And then as I move down the spine, that upper back, is it more grounded? Sometimes it feels squishier or like you have a flat tire. And then as you move down to the low back, is there less of a curve? Maybe the tailbone feels longer or more grounded. Maybe right and left are a little more equal. Again, you might feel that sensation of heat or blood flow. Maybe there's a lack of sensation. You had something achy or burny or stabby and now it's gone. Take your way all the way to that low back area. And then just 2 more cycles of breath, scanning, head to toe like little sonar waves, just bringing the brain information about the effects that you had. One more chance, one more cycle of breath, one more little bit of feedback to the brain. And then go ahead and take a full body stretch, reach the fingers and the toes. Maybe by doing this, you notice something different. And then we'll bring the knees into the chest and bring ourselves up to a seated position. All right, well, hope you're feeling amazing. Love foam rolling. We also have a lower body foam rolling class already on YouTube, so you want to make sure and check that out as well. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.